webinar, the first webinar of the year for us on organizing innovation workshops with supplier. I'm just gonna, do a very short introduction, but I'm gonna take my time to do this because we still have people, coming into the webinar interface. So, just gonna do the opening of the session slowly. It's really a pleasure to have all of you around today. We've got people from many countries. We have people from Argentina, people from Brazil, we've got people from Ecuador, people from Mexico, from Peru, from the United States, United Arab Emirates, from the UK, from Spain, from Poland, from France, from Belgium. So it's really an international crowd today. And in terms of industries, we also have, quite a lot of an interesting representation for this webinar. We've got, people coming from the IT sector, chemical, telecoms. We've got people from, drugs, pharmaceuticals, automotives. Quite a number of people from engineering. So really interesting, turn up in terms of attendance today. So really glad to have all of you together with us. I see that some of you have already found so someone says cannot hear me. Is this like everyone or just one person? Because normally we've done the testing and everything, so yeah, okay. So most people say we can hear. Oh, Julian, nice to see you around. So great. I can see some familiar, not faces, but familiar name around. So that's always a, pleasure to meet, old friends online here. Yeah, most of people apparently. So Mr. Mendoza, apparently most everyone can hear. So probably this is a setting on your computer, something like this. If you would like to change some of the setting for the interface, what you will find is on top of your screen, you have the name of the webinar, Organizing Innovation Days with Supplier. And then you have a little flag. So here you can change the language. And next to this, you've got something called settings, probably different in other languages, but you might be able to change some of the parameters for the interface. What you need to know is on the bottom left of the screen, you have a chat. So please, anytime you have a question, every time you want me to, expand on some of the points, anytime you've got some, points you would like to make, some comments, some reactions, please, put your questions, put your comment into the chat. I'll be, really glad of looking at this as we go and, start somehow some form of exchange. There's also the possibility a bit more on the right of the top right corner to put your screen full screen, and I think you will still see, the little video somewhere. But that's up to you to get things organized the way you want. So my name is Hervé Legenvre. I'm the director for the Value Creation Observatory. I'm leading the research activities at EIPM. I'm professor of innovation and entrepreneurship at EIPM. So the topic of the day is organizing innovation days, innovation workshops with suppliers. I'll be trying to share some of the research outcomes that from the research we've done on this topic over the past few years. And I hope you will enjoy the session. So I feel that we've reached more person coming, and this is stabilizing. So I'm just gonna gently start with the presentation. Just maybe a word in terms of what we do. I mean, EIPM is about education. We are a pure player in education. We are present everywhere in the world, and one thing that's absolutely key is is that we are a research-driven organization. So we really go out to try to understand what are the latest trends, the new development, and we try to package that into best practice and new tools and frameworks. And I think we need to say also something about education today. Education is not just about helping people build their strategies or gaining qualification or a degree. Education is about exploration and innovation. It's about harnessing the power of collective intelligence, bringing people together so they can think together about, how they want to work into the future, how they can redesign their day-to-day practices. We live in a world where, the 6-box purchasing process is out of date. There is many more practices we need to be able to use depending on the situation. So the simple linear process is not sufficient enough. We need to be much more agile. We need to be able to adapt our practice to different contexts, different situations. And, learning is about getting our culture to evolve, transforming, the way we approach suppliers, the way we approach business partners, the way we generate value for everyone. So whenever we are about education, we need to be ambitious, we need to be engaged, we need to reflect and experiment, reflect on the past, what have we achieved, what have we done, and experiment with new ways of doing things. Sometimes we need to look at the big picture, sometimes we need to jump in details, and we need to manage paradox. If on one hand we still need to consolidate, go for cost and cash, and on the other hand go for innovation, we live in a world where we need to, find the right way of managing the tensions between, different perspectives in our organization. And education is about receiving feedback. So today I'm going to give you, what used to be the core of some of the class we were doing in the past, but you can get it fully online today with us. And after, just go, take some elements, use them, experiment with them, and make sure you reflect on your experience. So what will be the aim and the agenda of the session? The aim are twofold. The first thing is I will try to define and introduce the innovation sourcing process. How do we bring innovation into the practice of purchasing? So I'll define innovation briefly. That will lead me to presenting to you the innovation sourcing process. And then I'll really be focusing on the core topic of the day, which is how we can help you plan for innovation workshop, what different types of innovation workshops we can organize, and how we can plan and organize them in a structured and systematic way, an effective way. We'll be coming back on this. So let me start with the big picture, the context. So I always like to go back in history. I always like to, look back in, all the times to understand how things were operating, so we see how they evolve. And if you go back to, before 1870, we used to live in a world of entrepreneurs. There were some big factories for sure, but, you didn't have like, large companies that were present in multiple countries, multiple cities. So it was a time where, entrepreneurs were running the business side. And who was doing purchasing at that time? This was the CEOs, the founder of the company, the entrepreneur themselves. In many ways, they were doing the selling and the buying together. They were on market, local market, regional market, international market. selling their product, buying what they needed to run the business. Then 1870 is really the time where you see the development of big companies. You know, the classic case is the rail in the US, with, you know, the lines have been multiplying. It is really a challenge to operate the rail across the whole of the US. And then this is a very strong need to standardize, make sure that everything's connected and working in a very efficient way. The old challenge is about getting to scale, running the operation. And in terms of purchasing, this is the first time that we see within company an established functions called purchasing, called procurement, called, you know, handling of railway materials. But the idea is to be able to negotiate with some of the big suppliers coming in. We've got bargaining power, like the steel industry, or like the people from who are making the brake systems, and, you know, making sure that you buy the right thing at the right price in order to deliver the right value for the business with the TCO logic that's already there. And this is so important in this type of company that you have, for instance, the head of purchasing and supply management at the California Railroad Company was directly reporting to the CEO of the company. And that's very often the case, very much depending on external sources of raw materials, equipment, and it was important to you know, have that direct connection. Then big business continued to develop, and purchasing is part of this. Very often, the first big companies are very open to the world in terms of innovation and things like this. But then came 1914, and countries realized that industry is absolutely essential following the First World War I in terms of, you know, building the capabilities to go to war. And therefore, they decide to close their border, put some trade barriers, and they create countries where big companies cannot expand outside of the borders. They need to expand within the country borders. So this is the time of the national champions. You know, big companies who are managing the full value chain. So Mr. Ford, with the 40, his vision is to have under one roof all of the production activities you need to produce and manufacture automotives, cars, the 40. So no suppliers, purely gaining access to raw materials at one hand of the factory, and the other hand of the line, you know, you have the car going out. He even invested in rubber forest in order to make sure he would have the rubber in order to do the tires. So vertical integration. In that context, what happens to purchasing? Well, you know, you go back on the level of the shop floor. It's just about sourcing some of the raw materials, doing a bit of planning and managing some of the transaction as the company is fully integrated. Oh yes, someone has been asking for the recording. Yes, indeed, we will be recording the whole webinar and send you an access to it. Then we move into the next stage. You know, between 1914 and 1980, you have a slow opening of the borders. But still in the 50s, you find a company like IBM, which is still turning sand into algorithm. IBM is doing every stage along the value chain. You know, from the chemical treatment of the sand to get silicium, turning silicium into electronic components, putting electronic components onto a board, putting the board inside a computer, and selling the computer with the software to the final user. So fully vertically integrated. But step by step, you start to see the globalization process, you know, into motion. At regional level, at international level. And companies start to rethink their way of competing. Instead of trying to operate on multiple markets in a vertically integrated way, they focus their activity on a few businesses with an ongoing outsourcing of activities in order to be the best on their core business. So we see all the global competition, especially challenged by Japanese companies in the 80s that force a lot of companies to rethink how they operate, the focus on quality, and this process of slicing and dicing value chain all along. And today, most of the value chain have a, 7 to 12 players between the raw materials and the final user. And in terms of purchasing, we are back on the front stage. We are looking at rationalizing the supplier base as we outsource more and more activities. We are globally expanding to support the business everywhere. We need to, manage the risk. And because negotiation is not enough about, getting the cost right, collaboration is here to help to, achieve better improvement and joint improvement objectives. So that's what I would call the fourth generation of purchasing. And now since, probably about 2005, it's always difficult just to set a date, but 2005, we are moving into a new period. We've got these industries that have been very fragmented with the multiplication of the players through the outsourcing waves. We've got new technology about digital Internet of Things coming in that are allowing to rebuild and restructure, different bricks together in order to offer new products and services. We've got some of the small companies coming in and making big impact in terms of innovation as we had in different periods of history, but it's back now because the cost of experimentation are not that high. The cost of doing validation is not so expensive in this kind of combination of building blocks world. Sustainability is forcing us to rethink our product, our systems, our processes. And because we are only working on a smaller part of the full value chain, open innovation becomes essential. We need to bring innovation from outside. So we purchasing, we've got a role now in terms of accessing innovation from outside, be ambidextrous. On one hand, continuing to deliver cost improvement, efficiencies, but on the other hand, being able to grab new ideas, find new solutions that answer to the problems of the business. So yes, we're still focusing on cost and cash because the economic conditions are calling for it, but at the same time, we've got to go for innovation. And this is what I call the time of distant capabilities, because more and more, we don't just work with the same players, but we need to go and find new players who have not so much common knowledge. Think of a company making a ski and the company making the the device that with artificial intelligence that give you feedback on your way of skiing. Two different worlds, two different knowledge base. These companies have never worked together, and suddenly they are partners, they are customer and supplier, and they've got to work together. So this is the fifth generation purchasing we are facing these days, and we need to, we still work a lot into the fourth generation mode, but we need to be ready for the fifth one. So I described already this move from a value chain, a few suppliers from raw materials, components, subsystems, OEMs, to an ecosystem with multiple players in many industries. You have some of your suppliers who are also your customers, sometimes your competitor. We are in a much more messy world with people offering product, people, offering services on top, and this is much more complex outside, and innovation can come from many different angles. So yesterday we didn't need to have so many innovation workshops because we would be always working with the same, major supplier, strategic supplier. But because innovation is coming from everywhere, we need to find ways of connecting, engaging with new partners into making this effective and efficient. A few years ago, we've been running a survey, and we are redoing the survey now, so it's going to be interesting to see the evolution. We've been asking people within the purchasing function what's your current focus in terms of gaining access to innovation? So 83% said, well, we need to get innovation from existing supplier. We start by, looking in the neighborhood. 34% said we need to look at tier 2, tier 3, suppliers of supplier. And 24% said we should be we're looking into startups. And it was interesting because already at that point, people were saying, yeah, but 51% 3 years should be focusing much more on tier 2, tier 3, and 54% saying startup and new players. So that was 2014. So tomorrow we will be sending the survey that we are redoing. So if you can contribute to the next round, it'd be interesting to compare data over time. So we're in a world where we need to go much broader in terms of, we need to look beyond the obvious in terms of getting access to, some of the capabilities that can help us. But think of the smart cities. The smart city is not going to be engineered, designed, implemented by, the town hall staff. It's going to be a lot of suppliers working together, working with the town hall in order to, establish all the foundation for a smart city. Think of the autonomous car. This is going to totally transform the architecture of the industry. We already see for the past 2-3 years some of the players changing their market positioning, abandoning some of their business, focusing on the data-driven side of the business, or moving to electric vehicle technology, and others trying to build empires for low-cost production of the no data types of components that are going to be in the car. So there will be a major shift into the industry architecture and who works with whom and who does what. If you take the champagne industry, innovation is not in the bubble. Innovation is not in what you drink. Innovation is not in the bottle. Innovation is the sticker, is the packaging, is the customer experience, is the growing of the grapes. Innovation is coming from suppliers, a lot of it. And if you go to the packaging supplier, I've been interviewing packaging suppliers for working for the champagne industry, and they said, in fact, we do some of the stickers, and the color of the sticker change depending on the temperature, but it's the people who are making the ink who bring the innovation to us. So I interviewed other people coming from the ink industry, and they work for this type of thing. Say, well, this is a specialty chemicals company who provided the ingredient. So in that case, it's the whole chain, that's working together to bring the innovation. And if we go into the future of telecoms, if we go into smart factories, this is all about working with outside capabilities, building on innovation coming from outside. So it's not about in what case, it's not about if. Today, in the new existing world that we are facing, suppliers are relevant to innovation. Hey, let's do a quick survey just to get you engaged. I've got a few questions for you, just to get a sense of what you're seeing, see your reaction. First question is, if you look at today, is innovation one of the formal objectives of your purchasing team? Do you have innovation within your scorecard, dashboard, target, formal objectives? Do you have a process to support innovation? And do you intend to run innovation workshop this year or in 2019? So, I can see more answers coming, but not yet half of the people, so I'll let you go. So more coming in, keep going, keep going. Less and less coming. A few more. Hey, let's have a look. I'm going to share with you the result. So 43% of you said you have formal objectives about innovation in your objective. I mean, still only 16% have developed some process for innovation within the company for purchasing. So I think that's an important point. If you know, if we've got some formal objectives on innovation, we should have elements of process. I'll be coming back on this. And half of you are planning to run an innovation workshop. Well, I guess you're curious to see some of the practice we have here, and that's why, you know, that's what drove you here. So, well, thanks. We'll be sharing some of these data back tomorrow. Okay, so now let me spend a little bit of time. I'll try to be quick, but I need to set the scene in terms of the meaning of innovation and how do you go about getting innovation. A lot of people still think that innovation is about having new ideas, having blue sky ideas. You know, it's about people who are genius, who have, you know, very special persons, very creative. They walk in the street and suddenly, you know, eureka, you know, the light bulb. And, you know, yes, I have an idea. It's a great one. It's coming from nowhere. Well, it's never working like that. I did my PhD thesis on the history of inventors over 300 years, and all of them are great at one thing: finding problems. They tell people, bring me problems, bring me problems. If I have problems, I can bring some solutions. Problem is not purely like, you know, a defect of yesterday. It could be about, you know, in the future, we would love to have that, and therefore the problem is how to make that work, how to reach this. So we need problems in order to get, you know, some of the solution and to innovate. Without problem, we can't really bring in innovation. A lot of this image of getting access to new ideas is coming from the eureka. You know, Archimedes, he's in his bathtub and suddenly, I've just invented, you know, the laws of, you know, pressure and density. Well, in fact, he had a problem to solve. The king of Archimedes had just received a statue made of gold. But he didn't know, the king, if it was gold-plated or if it was full gold. So he said to Archimedes, find me a way of knowing if this is plain gold or if this is just, you know, plated on the top, and you can't destroy it. No, you know, destruction of the statue. So he had to come up with non-destructive control mechanism for that. And that's indeed, you know, thinking of if it's fully made of gold, it will fall into the water at the same speed as another piece fully made of gold. And if it's not, it will have a different density and will change. So Archimedes' laws, you know, came from solving a problem. So when we say eureka, no, it's really coming from solving a problem, not just having an idea in your bath. And Edison was associated with the light bulb and having ideas, has been telling all his life that, you know, he's had to, you know, run something like 10,000 experiments in order to develop the light bulb and the full electric systems. And he says, I found 10,000, you know, ways that won't work. So he's been solving thousands and thousands of little problems by doing thousands and thousands of experiments. The whole electric system was the result of solving many, many problems all together. The drone. So, hey, let's do a test. Who invented the first drone? This might be a company, this might be an institution, or this might be a person. So, you know, why don't you type in the chat some of your suggestions in terms of who invented the first drone? If you got no clues, you can always put some kind of a date. Someone suggesting NASA? No, that was much before. Someone suggesting a military organization. That could make a lot of sense, but no. Wow! Reginald Denny and the radio plane. The first large-scale production purpose-built drone was a product of Reginald Denny. I think someone's got access to Wikipedia. In 1919. Well, I mean, for me, the first patent that relates to a drone is coming from Tesla. Do you know Tesla? I'm not talking about the company called Tesla. I'm talking about Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, who was working with Edison on the electric systems at the end. Yes, Nikola Tesla, 1950. No, it was even before. It was, 1890 something that he had the patent on unmanned vehicles. So this was about either, flying a drone, or the first prototype he did during an exhibition, I think it was in Philadelphia, was about a boat that was remotely controlled. And people thought he was manipulating with his mind, the water tank that was on the water. But the patent was also for, flying stuff. But at that time, nothing was flying yet. So, that gives you the sense of, we already had the idea of getting a drone before we even got a plane up in the air. So the process of innovating the drone was 100 years long, solving many, many problems, finding ways to improve on all these dimensions, increasing the range, increasing the flight time, the autonomy, reducing the weight of the drone, increasing the speed, being able to, have it in higher and higher altitudes, and reducing the cost of the drone. So it's a long process, a tedious process with many problems and many solutions that takes place over time. What's really important to have in mind is when we work with suppliers, we will come up with a portfolio of projects in terms of innovation. And every innovation is about, these projects. Some of them will be just an enhancement of existing technology and will not make a big change on the market. So you will be bringing probably in your portfolio quite a lot of incremental innovation at the start. Through collaboration with supplier, you can bring some incremental innovation. But sometimes you can go a bit further, bring a new technology into the picture and develop something that's a breakthrough. It might not change the market, but it's really making a difference in terms of technology, in terms of solution, much more efficient, much more effective, really depending on what you try to achieve in terms of performance. Now, some of the innovation you might be working on could be having much more impact on the market. If they're really changing the market with a new solution, a new technology, this would be a game changer. Moving from the CD to iTunes is a game changer. Moving from iTunes to streaming of music is a game changer. It's new technology, it's new solutions, but it creates new markets. And what you have in the bottom right is what we talk a lot about, which is disruptive. But the meaning, according to Chesbrough, of disruptive is it's a low-performing technology which is progressing fast, and it's destabilizing existing player. You don't see it coming. The first pictures you could make with like a digital camera, they weren't very good. They were not competing with very fancy, pictures you could make out of your fancy Kodak camera. But they've been progressing so fast, and they've been solving problems for the user that were very difficult for the big camera to address. So this is what we call disruptive. It's changing the structure of the market, it's changing the player, it's creating a major impact on the market, but it's using an old technology that's progressing very fast. So you will have different types of projects with supplier for innovation, a lot around incremental and a few maybe breakthrough, game changer, disruptive. And what will be important is as you progress over time is to have more of the, higher impact type of project, breakthrough, game changer, disruptive very often. You want to intensify this type of project. We did some study a few years ago already on what type of innovation you do with supplier. So, you can work on cost aspects, you can work on risk aspects, totally transform processes, ways of working. You can bring some innovation in terms of product and services. You can change the customer experience together with the supplier. You can access new market, create new opportunities on the market, or you can totally transform a business model. What we found when we've been running some data gathering on this is some interesting patterns here. So the companies who have the best financial performance, they do a lot of cost innovation project, incremental cost innovation project, a lot of incremental risk improvement innovation project, a lot of product and service differentiation project. But what also distinguishes them from the average company in terms of financial performance is they also work on more fundamental, innovative business model project with suppliers. They tend to do much more project in terms of accessing new markets. So the companies who are the best at, from a financial point of view, in terms of profitability, revenue, growth, are the company who are the best at developing innovation projects with suppliers. And that's great news. We have a role to play here. So I saw a question. So you wanted, you wanted an example of a disruptive innovation. So typically, I gave you the case of the camera, and so the digital camera. The first one, there were low quality type of pictures you could take. Getting this camera was actually very cheap, and they were not very high quality, and they were able to totally transform the market within few years. I mean, companies like Kodak, they already had worked on digital, they had invented digital, but because they were focusing on bringing higher added value to their customers, they weren't interested in this. And they were looking at, next game changers for them that would be, offering all sets of filters and effects, that would turn any amateur into a professional. So that's what we call a disruptive innovation. When you take like new technology coming from, like the Tesla is not a disruptive innovation. Tesla is much more of a, going into a game changer, totally transforming the way we buy and we sell cars. Okay, so I think I've answered your question. I mean, people have different ways of defining these things. I'm just trying to give you a few points, that I think are, in line with the academic definition we have. But, people use disruptive for everything these days, but that's really the origin of it. Okay. Hey, I've got a game for you. I've got a challenge, huh? So I'm going to see who's following. Think of an insurance company. I've just been appointed as purchasing manager in an insurance company. Okay? And then you're in charge of the suppliers who are supporting the breakdown of cars. So, think you are the user, you are driving your car on the motorway, and the car stops, boom, 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 and what you do? First thing you do is you pick up your phone, you place a phone call to tell the insurance company that you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and you need their help. Do you talk to an employee from the insurance company? No. You talk to someone from a supplier. This is a call center, and you talk to an employee from the supplier. Then that employee is going to call someone who's going to, come and tow away your car and take the car to the next garage. The person driving, the truck that's going to tow away your car, you think this person is working for the insurance company? No, this is one of the suppliers. And then they put you in a taxi that's going to take you back home. Well, again, this is not an employee from the insurance company, but, this is someone from a supplier. And then someone is coming as the expert and, looking at all the points and trying to understand if, you need to get the money back, or if you made, something wrong. That's, explain why the car, stopped working. So 1 out of 2 is working for insurance company, and 1 out of 2 is coming from a supplier. So a supplier have an impact on, the experience of the user. So the challenge is, and this will be a survey, by working closely with the suppliers, the insurance company is able to, and you're going to have to choose amongst the elements you see on the left side. So I'm going to go to the survey. So by working closely with its vendors, an insurance company was able to create an innovative business model, access new markets, offer product and service differentiation, gain resilience, reduce risk, or increase its efficiency. So what would be your bet? How do you create value in that case? Where do you create value? What type of value? What type of project you would be achieving in terms of innovation? Someone saying the sound is not so good. Well, if others have a problem with the sound, let me know. But I can try to speak closer to the camera. But we did some tests. That should be fine. Maybe I'm moving too much to the desk. So we got more data coming in, more data. Wow, this is really spread. More is coming in, more is coming in. Great, great, great. Make your choice. Pick what you think is different from the morning. Interesting. We've been running the same webinar this morning, and there were 2 of them that were really, really different. Much ahead of the others. Yeah, that's less the case here. So I see still a few more answers coming, but it's getting less and less. Okay, so let me hand the vote. Okay, so who's the winner? The winner is enhancing customer experience, and that's exactly what the company has been focusing on. The insurance company I've been working with a few years ago, they work with the suppliers in order to make sure that their vendors would be, carrying the brand promise, sometimes showing their logo, making sure that they would be delivering some very special aspects of service at the right moment for their users. And this has created loyalty. They saw an increase in terms of customer satisfaction, and they saw an increase in terms of customer loyalty. So indeed, this is about enhancing customer experience. Creating an innovative business model, not so much. It's not really changing the value proposition, and it's not really changing the, how value is delivered and how you make money on the market. So it's not really a change on the business model. It's not about, I need to show you the result. It's not about, it could be about accessing new markets. It could be about, because you are creating loyalty, there is word of mouth, and this is about accessing new markets, but this is a kind of a secondary one. There are elements of slight differentiation in terms of this, but it's really differentiation on the customer experience. Certainly, you've got some, working closely with the vendors, improving, the joint process. You can reduce some risk and you can increase efficiency, but really this was about enhancing customer experience. So that framework is, relatively simple, but this gives you already like a set of types of projects where you can work with suppliers in terms of bringing some of the value, bringing some of the innovation. Oh, good. Thanks for the contribution. Now, one last element before we really talk about innovation workshops. So we talked about innovation being about finding problems and finding solutions. So how do we get things organized in purchasing about the innovation sourcing process? So we need to find problems to solve. We need to go and, understand from the final customer, understand from the users, understand from the business partner, understand from, your lead specifier, what are the problems? Where are the pain points? Where do they want to innovate into the future, and where do we have gaps currently? So then you can go outside. You can look for solution in the market. You can look for solution in the ecosystem. You can look at existing supplier, but sometimes you need to go beyond and look at new suppliers in order to bring together the solution that's gonna really help solve the problem. So you've got the both sides being important. And it's true that sometimes, as a person really interested in what's happening in the market, you will see some new development, you will see some new players, and you might say, hey, dear business partner, we've just found that there is something interesting. Maybe you could be, you should be looking at it. So sometimes it's coming from the market, but you need to anchor it into a problem. It's got to help deliver value, which means it's got to help solve problem for someone. And then the third part of the process is to, have this project that can be very short or rather long in terms of innovating together. And the outcome is revenue and profitability. Impact on commercial performance, sales revenue, growth, impact on financial performance in terms of profitability or in terms of return on investment. So we need to have not like a 10 steps process for innovation, but we need to have these 3 blocks. We need to have a number of practice that allow us to understand the problems that we can help solve, and we need to have some practice that can help us go and find some of the solutions, some of the capabilities within the ecosystem that can help solve the problem. And we need to have ways of supporting the joint the joint management, the project, the innovation project together with suppliers. So it's not just like a set of templates, but it's more a set of practice and tools that allow you to make this effective. So now let's talk about innovation workshop, and let's position them on this picture. What's very interesting about innovation workshop is they are really at the junction between finding problems, finding solutions, and involving suppliers in innovation project. This is really here that you will, get the connection. Share together during the workshop with suppliers your problems so they can suggest some solution. Look at what the suppliers are doing in terms of innovative development, so you might find within this set of solutions something that's going to help you solve your problems. Maybe you're going to start a new project, a new innovation project, a new product development project, a new, kind of a proof of concept development by, creating a workshop that's going to allow you to, set things into motion and go in the right direction so problems and solutions come together. So we're right in the middle. We're right at the center of this process. It's not the alpha and omega of innovation sourcing. You need to do things before. You need to go and get these problems. You need to look for the solutions. But at some point, things need to connect, and the workshop is the right format for this. So now, very often people have in mind that innovation workshop is about bringing the suppliers in so they show us what they do. Well, that's only one way. That's why, on the Innovation Workshop Atlas, I put on the top left corner, and I call the comment show. And this is comment show is about, maybe sending a list of problems outside and saying, if you've done something interesting, come and show us what you have developed in terms of innovation, what you're working on in terms of innovation. We don't do any work. We just look at what you've done. Show me a prototype, show me a final product, show me a brochure that describes the whole thing. Another way is, well, not just to sit at home, to sit in the business, but to go outside, take, someone from R&D, take someone from marketing, go together and see what's happening outside, see the new solution coming up, see in a fair, see on the site of a supplier, do these kinds of visits in workshops together with the supplier on the location in order to see some of the novelty coming in. But here we've just shown solutions and seen solutions. There is another way, which is the bottom of the atlas, which is about let's do. Let's do is really about getting things done together. It's not about showing and seeing. It's not about listening, talking. It's about, working on prototypes and developing together some analysis and some solutions to better understand the problems and we better understand the solution. It's about let's do. Let's make progress together during the workshop itself. So just to give, to help you understand how these things works, I'm gonna share with you a number of practices or cases that I've been observing over the years. I've collected a lot of different ways, and a number of them are videos, but I've picked two that are very specific and where you can have a lot of learning. The first one was started more than 5 years ago at L'Oréal it was called the Cherry Pack. There was an innovation team established within the purchasing function, and they decided to look at organizing an innovation day with packaging suppliers. So the innovation team, 6 months before the workshop, the innovation day, they went to all of the business and they asked them to provide a brief. And provide me with like, a 1-page, 2-page description of what are your future needs, what you would really want to see, what are your pain points, what do you expect in terms of innovation from the market, what would be of value to you, the direction, the vision. They send that to suppliers and they have them to send some solutions, description, and they say it's going to be a competition. Not everybody is going to be asked to come and show their solutions, but they will be looking at a smaller set. It was more than 7. I think for the first Cherry Pack, I mean, you can see on the video, you'll get the link tomorrow, but that's like 35 something suppliers that were over there. And during 2 days, the suppliers could demonstrate and show their innovation in front of 700 people from L'Oréal, coming from all of the brands. Product manager, people in charge of the technical aspects, people in charge of operation, people from marketing. They had the CEO, they had the CEO, everybody was there. So after that, there was a lot of satisfaction. You will see in the video, people were really enthusiastic about the 2 days, but a few months after, when in L'Oréal, they went back and asked the different players, so how many projects you have running since the innovation day? Well, this was barely nothing. They had invested a lot in terms of preparing very well. They organized something that was really an outstanding event, very, really creating enthusiasm, but everybody was busy with day-to-day stuff. Nobody had been really following on the ideas. Nobody was in charge. Nobody was feeling that was his or her responsibility. So instead of saying, well, that didn't work very well, we're going to stop, they organized a second Cherry Pack. And one thing they did is they put in front of every supplier a little tablet where the people from the business could come and they could put a card in front of it and they could press like. So at the end of the 2 days, you know, they had data about who from which part of the business liked which innovation. So they had like a, you know, quite a number of quite a lot of information, and they were able to cluster the data and say, hey, you guys, there's 3 or 4 of you will be interested in that supplier, so we would like to organize a follow-up session. And then, you know, projects started to flow out of it. So that was really great, that they persevered, they tried to improve, they, you know, they pushed from the first one, you know, to see things in place, but they also revised their process to make it work into the future. So that is a typical, you know, command show, very well organized, very well structured, based on problems, you know, providing the brief, getting suggestions, creating a sense of competition, you know, come and show us, and then pick some stuff and go ahead further. Another one I'd like to share with you is a totally different one. It's about, you know, going outside. And there's some elements of let's do, and it's not so much about the suppliers working, but it's actually people from the business. So again, you can see the video tomorrow, or you just type Bayer Innovation on Wheels. So this was a supply organization of Bayer, and they wanted to work on, you know, smart logistics, smart factories, and they were organizing meetings inside the wall of the company, but you know, I mean, things were not progressing at the speed they would have wanted it. So they said, we need to do some things different. We need to expose the people from inside to solutions from outside. So they see what works, they see what problems can be solved, they see what type of solution can help solve the problem. Let's put them on a bus. This was an idea from someone from the innovation team. Put them on a bus, you know, facilitate a full week on the bus, visiting suppliers, visiting research centers like the Fraunhofer Institute and other places, and come up with problems, come up with prototypes, and come up with solutions, and pitch your projects at the end to top manager who are going to be putting money onto some of the project. So that's what they did. You know, a full week in the bus, and actually the supply organizer, the nice trick they did is every person getting on the bus, you know, was paying the full week by having some as a training. So this wasn't actually costing them quite a lot in terms of the own budget of a supply organization, but every player from the business, you know, saw that as an opportunity to get trained by getting things done. So that's a totally different case. Go out, develop prototypes, work on some ideas, pitch your project, and then go ahead. So again, if you take the full innovation workshop at last, you've got many more options. I mean, something that's, you know, for me, not really a workshop, but can be an innovation day, is to organize a fair. So basically, maybe in the morning, you've got your supplier day, your supplier conference, you tell them about, you know, a number of things, and in the afternoon what you can do is organize a fair where they can show some of their latest development. You could organize meetings with people from the business, so you facilitate the meeting, you facilitate people from the business meeting people from the supply side so they can see what type of thing they work on. You don't need to get involved. It's about, you know, creating this kind of interaction and creating the opportunity for people to, oh, bump into something. Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't think of that, and it'd be interesting to keep talking and exchanging. You can have alignment meeting. They can take place at the supplier. They can take place in your walls. This is a one-to-one meeting when you look at what kind of innovation we could be working together in the future. You could be working, you could be building an hackathon. One of the cases I saw already a few years ago was a bank together with an IT company. They organized a workshop where they invited startups to pitch some ideas in terms of fintech, you know, like new ideas for the bank in terms of customer service and things like this. And this was really the startup coming and pitching, showing, you know, what they could be doing. I can see I have a question. So, yes, I've got Julian telling me that Silicon Valley has also adopted this innovation on wheels for foreign executive whom shuttle around the major incubator. Yeah, no, that's a great way to do, tours in the Silicon Valley and to, come and see clearly the type of thing that are taking place. So, well, thanks for the point, Julian. If you've got some, like interesting videos showing this, it's always nice. You can, maybe send it to me. We can share it with everyone if you've seen anything like this. So what are the other types? Go and see would be typically a scouting visit where you organize an agenda at a supplier, where you have them to present some of their solutions from other industry, where you look at prototypes that have been developing for different applications, where you come and you put your own problems on the table, you get their views about it, you look at future development they want to do. You have, I'll be coming back on Lean Walks. You have also joint problem solving session. You bring 2 or 3 suppliers, you show them the current situation. You say, we would like to go in that direction in terms of a vision. So what you see as useful solution that we could put together in order to get there. And sometimes what you see is also some collaboration starting amongst your suppliers. You've got cases like a startup accelerator. So a company like Vodafone, what they've done this year, they started an accelerator for startup. They're looking at startups that have already got some established product and clients, and that are looking at further developing. They bring me into the purchasing organization, VPC, Vodafone Procurement Company in Luxembourg. They're integrated in their offices. And what they do is they give them opportunity to present, what they do inside Vodafone, but also outside to other players. So that's a way of bringing in, come and, develop the next stage of the development of your startup within the walls of the big company. And some purchasing organizations are starting to do that. You could have something that we used to do. I used to be involved in that in the automotive industry. We would bring like a supplier from one of the components, and very early in the process of developing a new vehicle, on the component would be prototyping a number of solutions. We would start from, the vision for the product, and we would come up maybe with 10 to 12 different solutions in terms of, conceiving something new for the next generation of car. So here, it's not just about talking, showing, it's really about, doing, creating prototypes, learning from the prototypes, having a discussion around the prototypes. And the case of the edition burst, where you go outside and, this is about doing things. It's not about just like seeing, it's really about, developing proof of concept and stuff like that. Okay. So when is it that you want to do a common show? A common show is really easy to organize if you're very attractive to your suppliers. Okay, the suppliers depend on you. They always want to, be seen as the good suppliers. Will bring you some innovative development to you, and therefore you just, tell them to, come and show me. Here is my priorities. Come and show me what you can do to help me here. But if you are go and see, this could be to go and see some of companies who would be not so willing to, immediately bring their innovation to you, work with you. They might not see you as the most attractive partner as the customer of choice for innovation. But also the common show is a great way to challenge the internal mindset of the company. You're working with maybe some people from different functions, and we are all getting stuck in our way of thinking. We have kind of we tend to see the world of tomorrow as the world of yesterday, and going outside, looking at new industries, looking at new suppliers, looking at research centers, working with a supplier on new concept within their walls is about changing the mindset, abandoning some of the shutters, the blinders that prevent us from seeing the world differently. So it's great about challenging the mindset to go outside. You pick some people from the business and then you go. You try to see the world in a different way. The push side is on the top. So basically, if you are doing you know, show me your work, let's go and see your work. We are looking for innovation that's already prototyped, that's already ready, that's already on the market. So we are not the first to use things, but we are trying to harvest what's being developed across the ecosystem, across the industry. And if you are in a let's do, it's very often a situation where, you know, you're probably the first one to want to solve that problem, or that problem is really unique to you. So you need to get them to pull. You need to get the suppliers to come up with the capabilities, with the solution that are going to be matching the problems you have, or, you know, the anticipation in terms of innovation priorities that you want them to work on. So you're pulling their ways of working, you're dragging their resources to work on your problems, not on someone else's problem. So that's the innovation workshop atlas. You know, it's really telling you there is not one single way. There's more than one type of workshop you can organize. You need to choose which one is the best for you. So how would you do that? So to help you with this, I've created something which is called the Innovation Workshop Configurator. On the left side, you have what I've been identifying as the most classic type of goals you can give to your workshop, innovation workshop. And on the right, you've got some of the most important parameters. So what are the goals? Maybe you want to have supplier intelligence. You want to have information about what's coming up on the market. That's the goal of your workshop. Maybe you just want to make sure that there is a common understanding of what the future will look like. What are the trends? What are the next developments in the industry together with one of your suppliers? Or maybe you want to find new ideas coming from the ecosystem and the market. Or maybe you want to challenge the mindset of your company and people in your company, or you might want to find solutions to specific problems. Pick one goal. You will not be able to do all of this. You know, pick the one that fits your needs. Pick the one that's relevant to you in the context. And then set the parameter. Is it about doing things, or is it about seeing things, showing things? Is it about doing it inside or outside? What's the best solution for achieving the goal? Do I want to bring one supplier? Is it the best way to be efficient to get to the goals? Or do I want to bring together many suppliers, or do I bring them separately? Am I going to bring a few partners from the business, or am I going to bring a lot of people, 700 people from the whole of L'Oréal? Am I going to work on yesterday's problem, today's problem, tomorrow's problem, or the problem that we will be facing for the next 5-6 years? So you need really to understand the parameters that help you fit the goals, that help you achieve the goals that you have on the left side there. Let me take a case. I talk about the lean walk. So the lean walk, I saw that in different companies, automotive, but also in Grundfos, which is a water pump business. So basically, what were they doing? And they wanted to find some new ideas, and they wanted to find some innovation opportunities. So what they were saying is, well, dear Mr. Supplier, you enjoy working with us. You're, always, positive, ongoing in terms of bringing some innovative ideas. But, it'd be great to work on this a bit more together and be more systematic. So let's organize a joint session. Before the session, maybe you do your internal workshop inside, the brainstorming between the different functions, quality, product and operations and supply chain, and you agree on what is it that you could bring to us. We will do the same internally, and by doing brainstorming on both sides first, this is really getting to a consensus on both sides, so people don't come and shut up because, oh, I shouldn't be telling that in front of my colleagues. And then when they come the evening before, you can give a presentation on, what's a waste, what's added value in a process, sharing a little bit about the principles of lean. And the morning after, you go and you see the line, you go and see the customer journey, you go and you see the service operations. And from that, you try to understand what is waste, what is added value. You come back, building on both brainstorming you've been doing, then building on the visit and the observation of some of the problems, waste, then you can come up with an action plan. What do we want to do within a week? What do we want to achieve within a month? What we do over a quarter? This will give you a lot of incremental innovation. This will not, radically change the solution. It would be, rather rare in this type of workshop. It's about seeing, it's about doing it inside the company, it's about working with one supplier, a few selected partners from the company, working on the current process for the case of a living book. Okay, so that's one case. This is all about finding new opportunities and ways. You remember I talk about the fair. The fair is very much about supplier intelligence, gathering information on what's coming up, what's new, what's the novelty of the market, exposing people from the business to these. This is about seeing and showing. This is about, this is very often done inside the company. You can bring along many suppliers. You can bring along many partners. This is usually not about solving yesterday's problem, but this is not about, solving ahead of the game and anticipating long-term challenges of the industry, but much more looking what's coming up and sharing that together with the business. Let me show you another case. This could be a workshop about doing an alignment meeting. The alignment meeting is, bringing in a supplier, seeing their roadmap in terms of next technology development, next service and product they plan to put on the market. We could have a roadmap in terms of how ourselves we want to develop new technology and new approaches, and then we compare, we contrast. Where do we have gaps? Where do we have commonalities? What could we be working together? What type of interesting information we share? So this is about alignment. It's about seeing the plan, seeing the roadmaps, seeing the trends that both companies have in mind. This can be done at the supplier. This can be done on your premises. This can be done in a neutral environment. It's usually done only with one supplier, and you just bring selected people from the supplier, selected people from your company, and you try to look ahead. Future issues could be about product, process. I mean, that's quite a broad perspective. So that's another, another case. And you can do that for any of these, and basically, work from the configurator for your category, for a business unit, for what you want to achieve in terms of innovation. What would be the best? Where should we start? What do we want to get done? Supplier intelligence, get to know more what's happening, alignment with one, so we know what direction we have and who we can be talking for that type of innovation. Or do we want to, switch our mindset and get inspiration from outside, or find some real solutions? So pick the right one from the goal perspective, and then define how you can achieve that by working on the parameter. So for each of these, you can develop the navigator and craft exactly what's going to make a difference for you. When you've done that, you need to action it. You need to develop a plan to make it work. So here you're going to have access to another tool, which is rather simple, but it's a framework saying what kind of topic you want to work in terms of innovation workshop. What's the aim? What are your goals out of the workshop? You can use what you put onto the configurator. Then what will you do in terms of preparation? Will you get access to the problem you're going to be sharing? How are you going to send that? How are you going to select the company that will be presenting? How are you going to invite people to it? Function is about internal partners. Who should be involved? Who do you want to have on board? Suppliers, who should be involved? Who do you have to have on board from their side? What's the agenda of the day, of the session? And then, things like the sign of success. So don't start to develop, a whole set of key performance indicators on which you're going to be putting, a lot of targets. So what will tell you that you've succeeded? number of people present, number of ideas coming out from this session, number of projects being kicked off. You know, just put what you expect out of the workshop. Don't always try to put a target on it. You know, maybe some of the workshop will end up delivering, you know, 5, 10 little projects. Maybe some of the workshop will lead you to, you know, deliver some you know, one big game changer project. You know, don't try to predefine what's going to be the output. Don't use all the measure as a target, but, you know, list the signs of success and make sure you communicate on them. And then what will you do to follow up? You know, the L'Oréal case with the cherry pack, you know, making sure that something is happening and that, you know, when people have bumped into each other, have enjoyed, you know, some of the discussion, have found some potential areas where solution could come up to some of the problems, let's go and do it. Let's make things work. Let's pursue on this. So that's, you know, what I call the navigator. You can just take that, you print it, you put it on the wall, and together with your, you know, colleagues or with people from the business partner, you can put some post-its and to start to describe how you're going to get ready for this innovation workshop. We're getting close to the end, so I need to get you engaged one more time. I need to get your views. Our third survey. So, you know, when we started, some of you said, I'm planning to organize workshops. So would you like to organize a workshop or innovation workshop in 2018, 2019? And what format would you value the most for yours? Come and show, go and see, let's do. Answers are coming in. Keep coming, keep coming. Very nice to see the little bar progressing. You can't see that. I'm the only one. More coming, more coming. Good, great. It's building up. I still see some more coming in. No, I was going to stop, but I got some more. 3, 2, 1. Ah, I got one more. End of the vote. So what do we get? You know, still, yeah, you had 50%, now 57% looking into organizing an innovation workshop. That's interesting. What format? That's really interesting, you know. The most of the case you get usually is come and show. That's a natural tendency, but I see, you know, 21% have looked at go and see and let's do. So that's interesting, you know. And probably this is bringing more value. This is really helping to, you know, go and get some more fundamental, some more radical type of innovation. So it's not a bad idea. We need to go out if we want some innovation. We need to, you know, prototypes, develop some proof of. Okay, so maybe let me conclude now, and you can bring some of your questions in the meantime. The innovation workshop is not the alpha and omega of innovation. Okay, so don't start a workshop 6 weeks before you want to have it. You know, just make sure that it's just one step into the process. Make sure you get problems. Make sure you go and look for new players. In many cases, don't try to organize very large, highly visible innovation workshop. That might be nice for the first year in order to create the perception, the engagement, but very often less is more. Less workshops and smaller ones, more focused on specific problems, on specific challenges. Organizing innovation workshop, innovation days is not something you improvise. There's a lot of work 6 months before, there's lots of work few months after. So no improvisation, hard work before preparation. You know, if you want to create the condition for sparks to emerge, this is a lot of work ahead and lots of work after. And very often, I would say, go and work with facilitators. You have in your company probably people in charge of innovation, people who are facilitators. Ask their support. They know the techniques, they know the tools that can really help you to, just have the right discussion, have the right prototyping session, these kind of things. So get help. And one last point: don't organize the innovation workshop in the room where you are usually having your negotiation, because you will see people sweating and feeling heat. You need to have an environment that's really helping to, create the right environment, the right conditions. Many companies have innovation workshops, innovation rooms now that can be quite nice for these types of activities. So, hey, time for questions. Any questions for me? Any reactions? Any comments you might want to share? I see one, which is creativity techniques. What can you use as part of this workshop? Well, there's a lot of things you can use. I mean, a lot of companies have been, I've been using quite a lot design thinking, for instance. So this is a whole process that goes from, listening to the user needs to developing prototypes. There's a 5 steps process, and that's quite interesting to use design thinking as as one of the techniques for innovation workshops. But you have a lot of other options. I mean, there was a company called Descartes. What they did is they brought some of the heads from the suppliers, and they train them on how to ask the right questions, how to ask the right question in order to get innovation ideas. And basically, they get the right after the session to go and interview people from the business. And they had the possibility, the suppliers, the CEOs had the possibility to interview top executives from the company. And basically, this was things like, the right type of question, like, tell me the last time you used the product, what type of situation that happened that you didn't like to see, what were the good and the bad experience you had with what we do here. If you could do something differently, what would it be about, and why? Asking the 5 why is really a good way of getting some of the problems. But it's not just about throwing ideas in the air. It's really about investigating problems and investing solutions in a systematic way. I got another question. Yeah, what kind of technique can we use to make supplier comfortable and willing to give us some new ideas? Well, this is a very, very important question, because it's not just about making them comfortable during the meeting. Then, the way of making them comfortable is simply, play a Charlie Chaplin movie to start. If people watch something funny at the start of a meeting, they will be much more open-minded and much more creative. But the key point is to be attractive. How are we attractive to suppliers? How are we attractive to suppliers that are working in a different industry that can bring innovation to us? How are we attractive to a startup? How are we attractive to a new player? How are we attractive to a big company when we only represent that much of their business? And this will be dealt with in a workshop on the 6th of September that will be run by François Doucet. That will be talking about, how do we develop that attractiveness with supplier. So it's not just about being comfortable in the case of the workshop, but it's something broader. After, there's a lot of things that that can make the feeling, the atmosphere easygoing. Give people workshops, stuff to play with. We in innovation we have what we call Franken prototype. This is Frankenstein type of prototype. So bring a lot of magazines. At the office they call that Hervé's toys. So, you know, we've got a lot of post-its and magazines and clips and little dots and a lot of stuff like that. And, you know, this is prototype material. And sometimes I tell my MBA students, just go and get whatever you want all around here, inside, outside, bring stuff to build your prototype. Don't do them on PowerPoint, you know, very precise and nice. Just use stuff you can touch and feel to create some prototype. And that's really, you know, making people more at ease with developing new things. So Antonio saying very interesting, met the expectation, and some, you know, interested to implement some innovation days. Great, thank you. I got another question from Angelo about do you bring new suppliers to a workshop? So yes, in the case of L'Oréal, I mean, you don't need to do these workshops with existing supplier. With existing supplier, most of the time, what you will get is some incremental innovation. And when you want something more radical, very often you need to go beyond. Huh? And for instance, in the case of L'Oréal, they had identified that South Korea was a cluster for you know, a source of interesting packaging suppliers. So for the second workshop, they organized a cherry pack, and they sent more opportunities for companies from South Korea to come up and show some of their innovation. So yes, you can involve new suppliers, but if they don't want to come and show you or come and work with you, then you might need to go and see them and go and work with them. And I see another question about innovation labs. Yeah, well, yeah, that's been very, you know, that has been over the past 2 years like the big talk. So everybody was setting up innovation labs, and some of the innovation labs, to be honest, they're just like a place where you showcase, where some supplier could showcase their innovation. They have rooms where, you know, they can present what they do, they can customize it a little bit to your context. But like in the packaging industry, you know, you get some very interesting innovation labs where within like a few days, a few weeks, you know, they can go through all the process of designing a packaging, where, you know, they can work with you on defining the needs using design thinking. They can do things like you know, on the spot prototyping. Then they have like a shelves, and they've got ways of, you know, visualizing directly on shelf if it's, you know, attractive to people. So innovation labs, just pay attention to what they are. You know, if a supplier tells you come and see our innovation lab, try to really understand if it's about seeing things or doing things. Huh? And it can be really interesting if you can go on the do side. Okay, no more questions, no more comment. So, well, feel free to, you know, share a bit your feedback and, you know, tell us if you've enjoyed the session, if that met your expectation. Feel free to tell us if you are going to implement some workshop, because, you know, for me, what's interesting is just to give you this element and say, go and experiment, go and try things. You know, that's really what we're here for, is to create some sparks, make sure that, you know, we've got opportunities to go further. If you have questions, come to me. If you have problems, you know, I'm someone who enjoys innovation, so bring me problems. It's always interesting for me to help you solve them. Just a few information about the future. So we will have the PowerPoint and video tomorrow, and the survey for the next round of survey we do. It takes 30 minutes, but please, you know, provide the input from providing the stuff you have. Kerti, thanks a lot for your feedback. Next webinar, blockchain in June, on the 21st of June, attractiveness on the 6th of September, the future of purchasing and trends on the 8th of November. So we've got more coming. And yes, some of people saying they will be getting in touch in the future and, you know, sharing some of their practice. That would be great. I love that. Thanks for being with us. Looking forward to see you in future session, future training, or future webinar. Let's get going, you know, go purchasing, go innovation. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, I'm getting a question on IoT. IoT is Internet of Things. So this is all about digital, but for supply chains and industries. Huh? So last year we had a full session on we had a full session on the topic of the impact of the Internet of Things on purchasing. So we've done quite a lot of work on that. And I can see that Omar has been doing a lot on innovation workshop. Yes, you will get my email tomorrow so we can get in touch. And definitely, Omar, I want to keep discussing with you. Sounds to be very interesting because you've been generating a common C with 300 ideas coming out of it. So great, great. I like that. Fantastic. Be in touch. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.